Tom Mullen, a successful self-made millionaire and airline owner, is hosting a glamorous party in his sleek New York City penthouse to reveal his latest commercial. The ad tells the story of how Tom became a thriving entrepreneur. Little does he know, a group of criminals is plotting something much darker. While Tom, his wife Kate, and their son Sean attend a science fair in Central Park, things take a terrible turn. Sean, who is wandering around the fair, is kidnapped by a group of criminals. The kidnappers include Maris Connor, a caterer working for the Mullens, as well as the Barnes brothers, Clark and Cubby, and a tech expert named Miles Roberts. They grab Sean, throw him into a white van, and drive off, leaving the family in shock. Tom and Kate quickly realize their son is missing and panic sets in. They begin searching frantically, but it's too late. The kidnappers are already in control. Soon they receive a chilling video message. In it, Sean is blindfolded and chained to a bed, with a disguised voice threatening to kill him if the police or media are involved. The kidnappers demand $2 million in ransom. Despite the warning, Tom and Kate decide they must contact the authorities. They call the FBI, who arrive at their penthouse pretending to be construction workers. The team is led by Agent Lonnie Hawkins, who begins questioning the Mullens about the situation. Tom and Kate reveal that they already have 2 suitcases filled with the ransom money, ready for the handoff, waiting for the kidnappers' next instructions. Meanwhile, at the hideout in Brooklyn, Cubby Barnes, one of the kidnappers, begins to feel a bit of guilt. He goes out to a local store to buy cereal and videotapes for Sean, but while there, he becomes suspicious when he notices Detective Jimmy Shaker from the NYPD investigating a shoplifter. Jimmy, a seasoned detective, eyes Cubby suspiciously. After sending the shoplifter away, Jimmy decides to follow Cubby back to the hideout. Sneaking into the hideout, Jimmy discovers Sean locked in a room and confronts Cubby, putting a gun to his head. However, the shocking twist comes when Jimmy reveals that he is actually the mastermind behind the kidnapping. He scolds Cubby for his careless actions and warns him that the other cops never suspected anything when they saw him buying kids cereal, a criminal with a long history. Back at the Mullens penthouse, Tom confesses to Agent Hawkins that a former union leader might be involved in the kidnapping. Tom admits that he once bribed the union president to stop a strike, which led to the president being jailed. Tom managed to avoid legal consequences. Hawkins arranges for a prison meeting between Tom and the former union leader. But when they meet, it's clear that the union leader is not connected to the kidnapping. Soon after, Jimmy, disguised on the phone, contacts Tom with more ransom instructions. The FBI listens in but is unable to locate the kidnapper's hideout because Jimmy is using a signal jamming device. The FBI suggests that Tom should send a body double to make the ransom drop, but Tom insists that he will do it himself. He's even wired with a device to record any conversations. When Tom arrives at a designated street, his phone directs him to a nearby gym. Jimmy instructs him to dive into the gym's pool to retrieve a locker key, which short-circuits the FBI's listening device. Tom finds the locker with the key and inside a set of clothes and 2 large duffel bags. He's told to fill them with the ransom money, put on the clothes, and head to a parked car outside, which will take him to the next drop-off point. With the FBI's tracking equipment out of reach, Tom drives off into the night, unaware that Jimmy is tailing him. Over the radio, Jimmy mocks Tom for his past actions with the union leader, hinting that Tom often buys his way out of trouble. When Tom demands to speak with his son, Jimmy doesn't respond. Frustrated, Tom pulls over, but soon realizes Jimmy is still following him. The signal on the radio grows stronger as Jimmy directs Tom to a rock quarry for the final drop-off. When Tom arrives, Cubby shows up on an ATV, demanding the money. Tom insists on receiving an address in exchange, but Cubby refuses and struggles to grab the duffel bags. As the struggle intensifies, FBI SWAT teams arriving by helicopter begin closing in. Cubby tries to flee with the money, but the SWAT team pursues him, and a sniper takes a well-aimed shot, hitting Cubby in the neck. Cubby falls off the ATV, mortally wounded, and Tom approaches him, hoping for some final answers. However, Cubby dies without revealing anything about Sean's location. Tom is furious and blames the FBI for killing the only lead he had to his son. In a fit of rage, he attacks Agent Hawkins. Hawkins tries to calm down the group by explaining that identifying the drop man, the person involved in the ransom drop, gives them an important lead. He reveals that Cubby, a petty thief, had been working with his brother, Clark, who was far more dangerous and had a serious criminal record. If they can find Clark, they might be able to track down Sean. At the hideout, Clark is enraged by the death of his younger brother and, along with Maris, decides that the only way to get revenge is to kill Sean. However, Jimmy, the mastermind behind the kidnapping, stops them. He insists the plan to collect the ransom money must still go ahead. Back at Tom's penthouse, the media has caught wind of Sean's kidnapping, and the details are being broadcast everywhere. Jimmy calls Tom again, giving him new instructions for the drop-off location. However, Tom, not willing to play by the kidnappers' rules, ignores Jimmy's directions and instead watches the news. He then goes to the station where he interrupts a broadcast, sitting behind a desk with the $2 million ransom money on display. Tom announces that he won't pay the ransom, but instead is offering the $2 million as a reward for information leading to the capture or death of the kidnapper. How are his pants able to hold his gigantic cojones? He promises that the money will only be given if Sean is released. Tom is confident the kidnappers would try to kill Sean after receiving the ransom, and he believes his strategy will work better. Tom's wife and Hawkins are shocked by his decision, but Tom manages to convince them that this is the best way to get their son back. Meanwhile, Jimmy and his crew are losing control. His men are more focused on killing Sean than getting the ransom. Desperate, Jimmy sets up a new plan to try to bring the ransom back into play. He sends a note to Kate, Tom's wife, telling her to come to a renovated church at 2 a.m., without telling her husband. Once she arrives, Jimmy, wearing a ski mask, ambushes her. He threatens to kill Sean unless the ransom demands are met, leaving Kate terrified, along with Sean's shirt covered in blood. When she returns home, shaken and distraught, her trust in Tom's plan begins to weaken. Hawkins tries to exploit her fear to push her into agreeing to the ransom payment, believing this approach has the best chance of saving Sean. Tom, however, sticks to his guns. He goes outside into the midst of the media, doubling the reward to $4 million. Jimmy, furious, calls Tom again, allowing Sean to speak briefly before demanding the ransom. The tension between them escalates into a shouting match, and suddenly, Jimmy fires a gun at the nearby wall, trying to bluff Tom into believing that Sean has been killed. The call abruptly cuts off, leaving Tom and Kate terrified. Back at Jimmy's hideout, the plan continues to unravel. Jimmy, now in a laundromat, takes a moment to think. Clark and Miles, two of his associates, are loading up their van to leave. Meanwhile, Maris again contemplates killing Sean. Jimmy, however, has another idea. From the laundromat, he calls his dispatcher and then goes outside, flashing a badge to pretend he's an FBI agent. He attempts to arrest Clark and Miles, but when they realize they've been double-crossed, they try to flee. In the chaos, Jimmy kills both men and plants a revolver on Miles. However, he is caught off guard when Maris shoots him in the shoulder. Despite the pain, Jimmy shoots Maris dead too. As police units race to the hideout, Jimmy rushes back to Sean's side. He stays with the boy, radioing in that he has found both the kidnappers and Sean. When the emergency service unit arrives, they discover the scene, and Tom and Kate are soon notified of the rescue. They are finally reunited with their son while Jimmy is loaded onto an ambulance. Tom, grateful that his son is safe, thanks Jimmy for saving Sean's life. In the following days, Jimmy becomes a hero in the eyes of the public and his peers, but Sean, traumatized by his ordeal, struggles to return to normal life. He's afraid of the dark and hasn't regained his full sight, as he was blindfolded for most of the kidnapping. A few days later, Jimmy visits Tom's penthouse to collect the $4 million reward. Tom agrees and begins to write out the check. As Tom does so, Jimmy asks him a question. "Why didn't you just pay the ransom?" Tom replies that he refused to reward the kidnapper, who he considers human garbage. He admits that if it came down to it, he probably would have paid 10 times the ransom to get his son back. Just then, Sean walks into the room. When he sees Jimmy and hears his voice, he freezes in fear and wets himself. Tom notices this, recalling that the police had mentioned a possible accomplice who had escaped during the kidnapping. He begins to suspect that Jimmy might have been the main kidnapper. As Tom goes to hand over the check, Jimmy senses Tom's hesitation. He realizes that Tom might have figured out his role in the crime. In a tense moment, Jimmy demands that Tom call his bank and wire the $4 million directly to his account. He holds a gun to Tom's head, threatening him if he doesn't comply. Tom counters, offering to take Jimmy to the bank in person and transfer the money from there, promising to send him anywhere he wants afterward. Jimmy reluctantly agrees, but still threatens that one day he might return to kill Sean. The two men leave the penthouse, and Tom makes a call on his car phone. Unbeknownst to Jimmy, Tom isn't making arrangements for a jet. He's contacting Hawkins and the FBI. As they drive to the bank, Tom exchanges signals with police officers outside. When they arrive, the officers greet them as if they're important clients. Tom wires the money to Jimmy's account, stalling for time. As they exit the bank, Jimmy begins to realize something isn't right when he spots the police trying to detain him. Jimmy pulls out his gun and shoots both Clark and Miles, leaving them dead in the street. He then makes a break for it, running through the crowded traffic, hoping to vanish into the chaos. Tom, relentless, chases after him, determined to stop him once and for all. The chase leads them to the front of a nearby store, where the confrontation reaches its peak. Tom tackles Jimmy, managing to wrestle the gun from his hand. With the weapon now in his possession, Tom points it at Jimmy, ready to end the madness. Just then, the police arrive, shouting orders for Jimmy to surrender. But Jimmy, badly wounded and desperate, makes one final deadly move. His hand moves to his ankle, reaching for a hidden backup weapon. Tom spots the movement just in time. Without hesitation, he fires a single shot, hitting Jimmy in the chest. At the same moment, Hawkins, who has been in pursuit as well, takes aim and fires 3 more shots. All 4 bullets hit their target. Jimmy crumples to the ground, dead. As the dust settles, Kate appears, shaken but relieved to see her husband standing tall. Together, they walk away from the chaos, the police now securing the crime scene and taking control of the situation. The nightmare is over, but the scars will linger. Tom's big balls gamble had paid off. His son was safe, and the man who had terrorized their lives was gone. This story is now gone as well. But you can continue with other interesting movie recaps by clicking on the videos on the right next. Drop a like and subscribe if you enjoyed this story. I upload every other day. Grab your popcorn, enjoy yourself, and see you soon, my friend.